English only workplace? Enjoy culture sensitivity training. I work at a public hospital where a large portion of our patient population speaks Spanish. A few weeks back, I overhear 4 coworkers complaining that Spanish shouldn't be allowed at work because it's unprofessional. Context: this started because some Spanish-speaking employees were speaking Spanish in front of a non-Spanish speaker. The non-Spanish speaker thought they were talking about her. Spoiler, they weren't. This offended coworker quits because she claims she was being bullied by the 2 who routinely speak in Spanish to each other. She was one of the most dramatic people I've ever met, so good riddance. But the 4 are discussing how she was in fact bullied out of her job and that Spanish shouldn't be allowed to be spoken at our job unless it's to speak with patients. Otherwise only English should be spoken. They had to be able to speak English to get this job, so that's what they should speak since it's the language everyone understands. As someone who grew up in a home where 2 languages were spoken, I obviously took issue with this. I asked, "How do you know they were talking about her? Do you speak Spanish?" "They don't. They said you could just tell they were talking about her." I said, "How could you tell if you don't speak Spanish?" I told them they need to mind their own business or learn Spanish. You don't get to dictate whether someone speaks in their native language or not. That didn't go over well, and they got very defensive. They doubled down on their stance and told me I was getting too heated to talk to. I had raised my voice slightly because they kept repeating if they can speak English they should speak English. It's not that deep. I'd had enough at this point. Over my lunch break I went to my car and wrote a detailed email to HR and my direct supervisor. Now they all have to complete cultural sensitivity training in order to keep their jobs. ETA, I will point out a few things here. We work in a back hallway that is completely separated from patients. We call it the bowling alley because it is one long hallway of providers and clinical staff working side by side and back to back, about 50 ppl. I have never heard anyone speak in Spanish poorly about another employee in this back hallway. Does that mean it doesn't happen? Of course not. But do you know who I have heard speak poorly about other people? These same 4 women. I've heard them talk poorly on patients and other employees. They also talk shit about the LGBTQ community, for which they have also been reported to HR. I wasn't the one who heard and reported the conversation, but it came up again when they got told about their cultural sensitivity training. Secondly, here are some things to reflect on if you think only English should be spoken in the workplace. If you only speak English, you obviously think in English. For someone who speaks it as a second language, perhaps they think and articulate themselves better in their native language. They speak English during any professional encounters. Beyond that, they can and should speak whatever language they want. You feel isolated? Politely ask if they could switch to English around you so you can chime in or learn Spanish. No one thinks or talks about you near as much as you think they do. So why impugn wrong motives where there isn't any proof? If you would tune out a conversation in English that doesn't pertain to you, why would you get pressed about someone speaking in another language around you? And even if they were talking shit about you, then that speaks more to the content of their character than it does to yours. If you know for a fact someone is talking shit in another language, call them out on it or tell HR. Don't call for a ban on any non-English language being spoken because a few people use bilingualism for unkind things.